Well, welcome back, everyone, to Two Pastors and a Mic. My name is Cory.
And I'm Channock.
And we're glad that you're joining us wherever you're joining us from, whether you're listening to us in the car, mowing the grass, at the end of October, getting ready for all the festivities of fall, because I love fall, whether you're making chili in the kitchen right now. You know, I'm just in the spirit of fall, watching football, intermission break.
Colder weather came through.
Halftime. I know, right? Welcome. We appreciate all of our GAN listeners, YouTube listeners. If you haven't, leave a comment, subscribe, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, star us on Spotify. We appreciate all the love and support. We talked about last week, we had one of our highest listens in the history of the podcast, and this past week was one of the lowest, which is so funny. It comes and goes with ebbs and flows. That's comes and goes with ebbs and flows. We ride the wave. Hey, I'll let you boy. Hey, we are having a great day, and the reason why we're having a great day is because big shout out to you, Eric Simpson. He took me to my very first ever Detroit Lions football game. We drove up to Cincinnati this past Sunday, and I got to experience my boys in Honolulu Blue beat the Cincinnati Bengals. Got the W. All of our Bengal fans, I apologize, but I actually was a little disappointed. You know, I wanted to see Joe Burrow. He's injured. I didn't get to see him, but overall it was a great game. And
Stadium packed. So they were supposed to be striped black and orange. There were so many Lions fans in this game that you couldn't tell. The lady behind us, we had pretty great seats. The lady behind us was a season ticket holder. I could hear her conversation the entire day. She complained no less than 15 times about how she's never seen the stadium in her several decades of coming. She's never coming to the game. She has never seen the stadium with that many opposing fans. No less than 15 times, I'm not exaggerating. She kept on talking about, I can't believe how many opposing, she wouldn't say Lions fans. I can't believe how many opposing fans are here. Like our whole section was blue. You could hear Jared Goff chants. It was a lot of fun. It was a good experience. Detroit showing out then.
We showed up. I just assumed that because Burrow's out, that Cincinnati fans were like, screw this game. The Lions are good. We're going to sell it. And then they sold it to Detroit fans. So it was a lot of fun. First time. It was second pro football game, but the first time I went was at Lambeau Field. Back in high school with my dad. That was a good experience, but it wasn't with the Lions. So first Lions game, Cincinnati, it was good. It was a good experience. A lot of fun conversations when you're in a car with somebody for 2+ hours. So it was a good time.
Yeah,
I enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
So welcome. Welcome to the last edition of your book, Enough Already. If you haven't gotten the book, again, what are you doing? Get the book, buy it for yourself, buy it for friends. Christmas is coming up, which is crazy to say. You get 2 months. It's a perfect, I'm going to say this wrong, stocking stuffer. Got it right.
You got it.
Perfect stocking stuffer. Buy it for somebody. Buy it for your pastor. Buy it for your friends in ministry. We appreciate all the love and support. Today, we're doing chapters 14 and 15 and concluding our podcast edition of your book. Again, thank you for writing it. October is Pastor Appreciation Month. I appreciate you. You are an amazing human being. I said it to our church this past weekend, and my wife was like, man, that was really good that you said all those things about Channock, because they're all true. They are all true. Everybody who knows you, loves you, are appreciative of you. And so I'm thankful to be a part of this with you. So
absolutely. I feel the same. So let's go. Let's get this over with. It's been a fun journey, but
you ready to move on?
Yeah.
A little bit.
It's been a while.
You're repping Floyd Central Highlanders soccer shirt. Tonight is potentially the last night you watch your son play soccer, but we're going to believe.
We're hoping and believing for a win.
We're believing for victory. We're believing for a sectional championship this week.
Amazing.
And next week's recording will be, because we're on cloud 9, because your son's career continues. But you got a little nostalgia.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, let's get right into it. Chapters 14 and 15. Chapter 14 is called Rethinking Church. Now, this is a big deal chapter. And you also submitted this chapter for a book that we announced last week that we got to be a part of. Again, if you're in the Netherlands, there's an event November 8th. I think tickets are already sold out with David DeVos and William Paul Young. They're giving a book to all of the people that show up for free. I actually, again, forgot the name of the book. What's the name?
Sacred Undoing.
The Sacred Undoing. You and I both got to write a chapter, and the chapter that you submitted, did you change anything about it, or did you just submit this whole chapter?
Pretty much just submitted it as is. Maybe a few small little changes.
I mean, it's such a phenomenal chapter, and it's thought-provoking on how we, as the ecclesia, should rethink the way that we do ecclesia.
Yeah.
So why don't you
just with the understanding that we are the church. We don't show up to a building that is the church. That's just
space that host the church to be able to gather and encourage one another and to be encouraged. And I really think the big thing with this, and we've talked a lot about this on the podcast over the last couple of years, has been just the birth of the new nonprofit that I now lead called ReLife. And just really with a focus of walking out, being the hands and feet of Jesus, walking out, just practically helping people in our community that need the help, and really with no strings attached and with nothing expected in return other than, hey, this is just what we're called and commanded to do, to love as Christ loved us, and just trying to create different avenues for opportunities to love. Because it's one thing for most gatherings to say, well, we're a welcoming, loving church, but all they do, in a sense, is have services for people to come to where they sing a few songs, hear scripture, get encouraged. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but we have to look at it as a both and, because there's going to be so many people in our community that will never walk through the doors of our church. But how can we still show up for them? How can we be Jesus to them? How can we show that they are included, worthy, and loved if we're actually not going out of our way to show up to them in those spaces? And for us in ReLife, it just was one of those things that it was a place in an intersection where quite literally passion lined up with purpose. And I'm passionate about the real estate world, building. My dad was a builder by trade, contractor, so I've been at job sites since I could walk, literally learning how to do the ins and outs of almost everything with enough skill sometimes to get myself in trouble, but at least attempt and try. And so I love that world. I love the building aspect. I love the transformation. And I tell people a lot of time, especially when it comes to the house market and renovating or flipping houses or things like that, I really like it because you see immediate transformation. And then also there's an element of you're done with something and you can move on to the next house. Well, I like that and appreciate that, because I know a lot of time in ministry, you're dealing with people, and it is a lifelong process. Like, I'm in lifelong process. I will have never got to a place where I fully arrived, or I don't need help, or I don't need someone else in my life to help, shape me, guide me, lead me, direct me, call me out, challenge me, whatever I'm going to need in the moment. And so, so having these houses as the outlet for me to actually have something accomplished, has been life-changing for me too. Like, I've kind of come back to
for
life
us too
a little bit.
Yeah, because of that
through
statement.
Through just the opportunity. And yeah, so in this book, a lot of the doors that I've opened up, I know I mentioned, I think this is where I tell like the stove story, and showing up for a neighbor that we were doing a house, and the neighbor literally had no stove, and I told her that God was going to provide her one, and I didn't know how. And through a crazy circumstance, I thought I was going to have to go buy her one. And here comes a guy walking up at Home Depot as I'm looking at the literal appliances to buy. And he's like, well, what are you doing here? We chit chat, and he's like, oh, you need a stove? I have a stove. It's literally out in my truck right now. I just moved it from somebody. And those little moments like that I mentioned in the book, were just like little, like mile markers and monuments for me to be like, okay, God is in this. His hand's all over this, and I'm just going to continue to do things in the flow of whatever I see him doing, and I'll align with that. I'm not going to force anything. And so it's just really helped to have this lens where I think we have an opportunity to actually walk out what it means to be the church, like you said in the opening.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you just shared that. There's so many more, because I had you like, hey, you need to write these things down. And you've been writing them down of all like the little ways God has shown up in unique ways, to remind you of his permanent presence in you and through this thing that we're doing for our community. But I want to give this little caveat to our listeners, especially if you're inspired by what ReLife has become. because I know there's other people that are interested in doing this for their community. You know, we've really challenged if your doors as a church would shut today, would the community feel the impact? At the time in 2018, when we really started wrestling with that question, the answer was no. Today, I would say the answer is much different. And a lot of people, not just coming to a service, would be impacted, but a lot of people that would never come to a service know of Hill City because of the impact and the community outreach.
Right.
However, I want to be really honest about that journey because, and we've shared it before, but we really started wrestling with all of this in 2018. There's got to be something more. Again, it wasn't this either or, although we were okay with, is this an either or?
Right.
We're like, it's got to be both and, okay? The Sunday morning services are great, but again, they're not the pinnacle of what we do. They're the part of what we do. What else can we be doing in our community? Where is there a need? And it's easy in 2025 to talk about the fruit of everything that's gone through this organization, Hill City, ReLife. But that was 7 years ago. We were dealing with this stuff. We planted a second church campus that I don't think it failed. It just didn't work out the way that we expected it to. And it served its purpose in time for the 9 months that we did it. But we ended up closing its doors. COVID, shutting down the church. Actually, this week, 5 years ago, came back to the building for the first time, which is crazy to think about. I just got a reminder on Facebook.
Yeah, 12.
But even from 2019 to 2020 to 2021, shifting me out of the student ministry role, hiring somebody that only lasted 6 months, all of that process that it's all come through, we were really, really struggling, wanting to quit. Like this, if this is what church is. By 2021, we had been three years into contemplating on a weekly basis this conversation of, is this really all that we're supposed to be doing? So I don't want you as the listener or watcher to see this. Yes, you can be inspired by it, but this was a process. And we went through a lot of painful conversations and a lot of like, okay, God, where are you? Like knowing that he's permanently within us. Yes, we understand that revelation, but then not seeing anything come to fruition in a tangible way in our community. Yes, we were having partnerships. Yes, we were still doing things, but there was a lot of that of like just frustration constantly. To now where we are 7 years later, it's like, wow, it's kind of worked out. You know, certain people that are a part of ReLife weren't even a part of our church at the time, and they were monumental for moving forward. You know what I mean? Like, so it's all kind of worked out, and it's been awesome to see God's hand in that. And so when you are having this conversation about rethinking church, there is a lot of nuance, and there are a lot of conversations, and there are a lot of healthy, hey, like, okay, our eyes are open, but we're still going to be faithful to what we're doing, even though we're frustrated in that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the chapter a lot.
Yeah.
It's a great chapter. It's one of my favorites. I say that a lot, but it actually is probably my favorite chapter.
And hopefully it gives the reader like an understanding that church can look different. It don't just have to be that type of structure that we think about that happens on a Sunday morning. Now we're going to continue to do that, but that doesn't mean that it has to look like that.
Yeah.
Or it's the only thing that church is. Like church can look different. It could look like just showing up and serving your community with other people. It could look like doing it out of the home and you connect and do life with certain families. Like, I think it can look like it doesn't have to be this either or conversation. And one of the things that I joke around a lot with you and with the team, a lot of times where we have these like serve Saturdays, like we just did the last two Saturdays and 2 weekends. And like I show up there for 3 hours, we get 10, 15, 20, up to 30 people to show up, and we help and we serve. And while it's happening though, I see conversations taking place. I see people praying for other people. I see people encouraging through prophetic giftings. And I'm seeing all this stuff happen and take place while they're serving and taking that intentional time to give back and to help. And what I find is like, I'll come in on Sunday morning and be like, hey, this is great, but man, like I had church yesterday, kind of thing, you know, like those 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours were monumental and maybe more impactful than what's going to happen here today. But, you know, I want to reiterate it. For me, it didn't, for a while, it kind of seemed like an either or, but it developed and like, no, I see the importance of all of what we do and what I oversee and lead Hill City and ReLife. And I can see how it's becoming this beautiful thing kind of together.
Yeah. And it's its own thing now. But when it was first starting out, ReLife pretty much couldn't have happened without
being birthed in Hill City. through Hill
and
City.
without the services and the
Yep.
people organized. So it is a both
Yeah.
both and. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
And before we jump into this last chapter, the closing chapter, chapter 15, when you first brought the book to me, this chapter, Rethinking Church, was the last chapter, and you thought it was done. And it would have been fine with just the 14 chapters. But the way that you put a bow on top of this whole book and concluded, like every chapter, compound interest, so to speak, on each other. And then it gets to chapter 15. And chapter 15 is a short chapter, but it is, in my opinion, it is the perfect way to end this whole concept that you've been taking
Yeah.
people through, of like letting them into your life, but then also like it's a challenge to the reader of, okay, this isn't just Channock's story. This story also applies to you. And then how can you become the person that, as chapter 15 is titled, letting go of the mic, so to speak? What is your mic that you're holding on to metaphorically? And it might be literally, but what is your mic that you are refusing to let go of? And it's preventing you from walking into the next stage or the next step of what God might have for you.
Yeah. Or what, even walking into freedom, like the book is called From the Private Hell of Performance to the Freedom of Knowing I Am. And you're right. Like this final chapter was like that cherry on top that said, hey, this is kind of like my thought process and how I'm currently walking out, leading and understanding identity in this season from and based on everything that I went through for 6 or 7 years, starting the journey, and really even going all the way back to 2013 in Channock Banter. And then like this is like full circle where I got to in my understanding. And it's why, I think I always had it there. I think part of it is just seeing my dad and his leadership, wanting to work within the concept of a team. I never wanted it to just be about me or some gifting I carry or whatever. I really wanted to develop a diverse group, whether it was preaching or the staff or even our church. Like I want us to have a feel where we're okay to be challenged by different, that we all don't look the same and believe the same. And I just think it takes somebody to let go a little bit and open up. You're not going to have it unless you're able to live more openly and freely in how you lead.
Well, I appreciate you letting go. You challenge people, but you live it. And so it's not hypocritical. I'm inspired by you. I'm thankful for you. If you haven't gotten the book, get the book. I think you want to read the closing
Well, I just thought it'd be
chapter.
cool, like just to read the last few little sentences or maybe 2 paragraphs just of the book, because it kind of came from Channock Banter. Why am I like this? Why do I want to be anyone else besides Channock? Going through the process. I think this is gives like a nice little ending. And actually, yeah, I'd like to read it from Letting Go of the Mic. So here I am, a leader who doesn't want the spotlight, a pastor who doesn't want to be the center of attention. I'm okay if no one knows my name, as long as they're encountering the beauty of the Father and the love of Jesus. That's the kind of leader I want to be. And while I don't have it all figured out, and while there are days when I'm afraid of what's next, I trust the same God who brought me here will carry me through whatever comes next. Process is a continual thing. Growth is never ending. And as much as I want to pretend I've got it all together, the truth is I'm still figuring it out. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the goal isn't to arrive at some destination of perfection. Maybe the goal is to keep walking, to keep growing, and to keep learning, and to keep empowering others to do the same. I've lived the private hell of performance. I've chased the applause, feared the shame, and carried the weight of trying to be more, but not anymore. To the lies, the fear, and the act, I say enough already. I'm walking in the freedom of who I am. I am enough already.
Enough already. Bravo,
There you go.
Channock. Thank you so much for writing the book, releasing the book. Again, I think we're like 7 or 8 episodes into talking through the book. If you haven't gotten it and you're still listening, what are you doing? As we close this portion of the podcast and of the book, there's a couple things. If you are listening this far and you're locally to Floyd's Knobs, Louisville, New Albany area, just a couple announcements. We have a chili cook-off November 1st fundraiser for Harrison. I know he'd be appreciative if you showed up. Our live recording worship release of, well, it's not a release because we're
A
live recording
of the album.
Tuesday, November 18th at 6:30. If you're around the Netherlands, November 8th, find out about that information. But Peter also has a conference with our very close friend, Bill Vanderbush. I think it's November 22nd, 23rd. There's a lot of things happening within our culture and the Netherlands culture. So big things happening around, things for you to connect with people. It'd be a shame if you didn't. And so if you're local to any of those things, we'd love to see you there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just know you are loved and there's nothing you can do about it.